Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Arrow. I'm back with another video, and I am back with the 10 Divine Mapping Challenge. We did this last league. We had a ton of fun with it, and I ended up finding one of my favorite builds of all time. It was the Ethereal Knives Abyss Stacking Raider that actually started as a 10 Divine build and then was remade this league into a full, more high-end build guide. The goal of these 10 Divine builds is to find a fun mapper. We're not trying to break any PoB records here. We're not trying to get specific minimum numbers in PoB for EHP or minimum hit. We are trying to make a build that feels good to map with. We are just trying to make as smooth of a mapper as possible on the budget of 10 Divines with whatever archetype we're working with. I didn't think I needed to say this last league, but please don't recommend any items that are incredibly expensive unless you want to list things that are good upgrades for the build. The idea behind this is to create new and interesting ideas for people to play with, some off-meta stuff. When folks get a little bit into the league, maybe they're tired of their first build, they've got a little bit of currency laying around, and they want to try something new. All of these 10 Divine builds are very good mappers. Some of them are better at other things than others. Like, for example, this is going to be a really good Legion farmer. I have been farming Legion with this build, and it's very, very good at it. And Legion is an incredibly profitable mechanic. But it's not just good at Legions. It can boss rush. It can do any sort of regular mapping content. It just can't kill bosses. The way that it's currently set up, it doesn't generate frenzy charges on single target. Now, you could spend a little bit more and get access to those things. But again, we are just trying to make good, effective mappers for under 10 Divines. I will say I'm struggling a little bit more this league to make 10 Divine mappers because of what is known to many as sanctumflation. There are so many Divines in the economy right now. Mirrors are going through the roof because of all of the mirrorable items, mostly over in the settler's shop, and prices of everything are wild. Some things are incredibly expensive that are normally not so bad. Crafting materials are pretty expensive because people can afford them because they have a lot of Divines. So just know that prices are always in flux. Things change a lot. The economy is very volatile. So just keep that in mind. So what do we have today? This is Ice Nova. If you're enjoying this content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Of course, stop on my Twitch, twitch.tv/AER0___ live almost every single day. Come over and say hi. We are power charge stacking. This is my favorite archetype. Anyone who's been around this channel knows that power charge stacking is the best way to scale on a budget AoE and damage for a spell. You play an occultist, you get area per power charge, you take the power charge stuff on the tree that gives you multi and crit chance per power charge, and it is so easy to get to 11 power charges this league. So that's what this build has. We get to use the tattoo for +1 power charge, and then of course, Badge of the Brotherhood. This item makes it so your maximum frenzy charges is equal to your maximum power charges. You still have to generate them, but that means we'll be able to get 11 power and 11 frenzy charges. Frenzy charges give us cast speed and more damage. On a build like this, that's self-cast. You guys know I prefer self-cast to things like cast on crit. So in order to play a self-cast build, you have to have cast speed, or else the build is going to feel sluggish and slow. So Badge of the Brotherhood is obviously the choice there. The goal of this build was to make an Ice Nova that could one-hit the screen. You don't want to be stopping and casting too many times because our Intensify makes it so our area gets smaller, but our damage gets higher. So on single target, you stand next to the enemy, you cast over and over again, your area gets smaller and your damage goes up, and it makes it so we can easily kill things like essences, map bosses, legion bosses, etc. But when we're moving around and we don't have our Intensify stacks up, we're really only kind of on a 5 link, but our damage is good enough where it will shatter the entire screen. On top of that, Vol Ice Nova is a massive clear multiplier. The way that Vol Ice Nova works is it casts an Ice Nova, which hits enemies, and then recasts Ice Nova from the hit enemies, which means you can get ridiculous chain explosions. If you hit it just right, you can cast it and then follow your explosions through the map. The juicier the maps, the better. This build has no problem with high density. If anything, it's better with high density due to Profane Bloom explosions and Herald of Ice shatters. Now keep in mind, this build is customizable. You don't have to stick to exactly what I did. I put all the prices of the stuff that I have in the notes section of the PoB, but you are not beholden to every single item in this build. If you don't like Death Rush and you want to get something else there, you can do that. But this is just to give you a template of something that costs less than 10 Divines. And please know, that this build isn't perfectly optimized because it's limited to a budget of 10 divines. If I had an extra 2 divines, I would have made a different chest. We would get frenzy on hit, we'd be able to kill bosses, but again, we're under that 10 divine limit. So feel free to modify and adjust. You can come by my Twitch, twitch.tv/AER0___. I will ask any questions that you have, help you upgrade the build if you so want. So let's talk about some important things on the items. The helmet, we have the haste mana reservation efficiency. You can also get grace here, but these are pretty cheap. And then you are going to hit this with a warlord's exalted orb in order to roll power charge. Power charge can take a long time to roll. Alterations are super cheap, so even if you get super unlucky like I did, it's not going to be the end of the world. I don't recommend buying a power charge. They can be about a divine on a helmet already. So you get the helmet, you put the power charge on it with alterations, and then you awaken or orb that into a Redeemer helmet that has nearby enemies have -9 cold. That's super easy to make. You can use cold fossils, you can cold harvest, you can alt spam for it. It's very, very easy to get. The helmet I made is just about as bad as it gets. We've got maximum mana, 12 dex, and rarity, so at least we had the open prefix for life, but very unimpressive. The Death Rush ring is phenomenal for mapping. It's really hard to beat this. The life on kill is nice, the chaos res is nice, but really what you're getting here is adrenaline on kill. And if you're killing fast enough, if you're in juiced maps, you're going to be killing the second this comes down. So you'll have almost permanent uptime of adrenaline, and it feels really, really good. Make sure to get the 3-second adrenaline duration. They are not very expensive. We use a +2 carcass jack. I bought this for 1 divine. You can get them a little bit cheaper. This one had max life on it, so I figured I'd grab it. But really all you care about here is the +2. The ring in our other slot doesn't give us a ton. It's got some res, some strength, which we need, space for life, and then frostbite on hit. Frostbite on hit enables profane bloom. If you are not cursing on hit, you will not get the profane bloom explosions. So I would buy a ring that has frostbite on hit and then just craft life, but don't expect a ton out of the ring slot because frostbite on hit is expensive. This is very easily upgradable though. You can get a very good ring in the slot. You can use a Redeemer ring and reforge, I believe it's caster, in order to hit frostbite, but that's a little bit more expensive, and this is going to help us stay under 10 divines. The gloves, really important to get cold leech here. You don't need anything higher than the tier 1, the lowest tier of leech, and then unnerve. I would buy 11 or 12 spell suppressed gloves, fractured. These are super cheap. As soon as you get into 13, 14, they get pretty expensive, but a lower tier of suppressed at this point of league is very accessible. And then I just reforged with a shrieking essence of rage for tier 2 strength. Again, keeping costs down until I hit a res, and then we just crafted life. This belt I just purchased straight up. You kind of want to just solve whatever resistance issues you have here and then get life. So you can slot in a jewel. You want to get phasing and life on the jewel. Everything else is a bonus. On the gloves, you have to get elusive. We do not get elusive anywhere else, and you want it for your badge of the Brotherhood. Elusive by default gives move speed and chance to avoid damage from hits. So Badge of the Brotherhood gives us 110% increased effect of that, which is effectively more than doubling our elusive effect, and it really gives you a lot of zoom and a lot of defense. So gotta get elusive on the boots. You have a few options here. I bought a pair of Redeemer 2-tone boots, which I then reforged crit on. If you reforge crit, you are guaranteed to get elusive. Now, the ceiling on these boots is the moon. You can get tailwind, onslaught, all kinds of great stuff on here. But in order to make them cheap, I reforged crit for elusive a few times until I hit 25 move speed, a res, a tiny bit of life, and then an open suffix. And I was pretty happy with that. We didn't spend too much on these. The void batteries, obviously awesome. +1 power charge, a bunch of spell damage, crit chance, cast speed, all great stuff for us. I usually don't use cast on death in builds because I just don't find that I die enough to need it. But on this build, I was running Promenade, which is a very long map, and I was running very juiced legions, and I was dying from time to time, and I was getting quite annoyed by having to run back through the map. So I just put a cast on death portal in it. We're not going to go over all of the gems because most of these are self-explanatory. We'll just talk about a few of them. The Frost Shield. In order to use this, you need to get a little bit of ES Leech on the tree, and you need to have probably at least 1,000 ES, or else it feels pretty bad to run out of ES entirely. As far as Lightning Warp goes, I have a 4-link Lightning Warp. This is incredibly snappy. This is the best move skill in the entire game if you are invested into it, and we have open sockets available, so 4-link it is. We have our Vortex and Bone Chill on left click, and that feels super nice. When you're up against a boss, your Vortex is always just going off, so you're automatically hitting them with the Bone Chill. The clusters were pretty cheap. Blast Freeze is pretty important. Blast Freeze gets you freeze proliferation. We use a Green Dream to get frenzy charges on kill. Something that I try to fit into every single one of my Badge of the Brotherhood builds is this Unnatural Instinct in the slot down here. You get a ridiculous number of benefits from this. It is so worth it. I spent 4 divines of the 10 divine budget on this jewel. I promise you it's worth it. If you don't go for this, that's fine. You'll be able to do this build for a lot cheaper, but it is absolutely worth it. A huge amount of evasion, a huge amount of life, a bunch of dexterity, crit chance, all res. It's really, really hard to beat the value of these 3 points and 4 divines. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it there. I'm trying a little bit different of a thing here with this video where I don't spend too much time sitting in the hideout talking to you about the build. If you have questions about the build, stop by my Twitch, twitch.tv/AER0__. I'm live almost every single day, including right after this video. Let me know if you like this format where it's got more gameplay and less looking at me sitting in my hideout chatting. I want to deliver these builds to you in the quickest, cleanest, and most interesting way possible. So I really welcome your feedback down below. So thank you all for watching. As always, all of my links down in the description below. I have a Patreon, a merch store, a Discord. Check it all out. But most importantly, stop by my Twitch and say hello. That's going to be it from me. So as always, take care.